The night was thick with tension when Emma discovered the text that shattered her world. She had trusted Mark, the man she loved, believing their bond was unbreakable. But there it was, his name beside another woman's in a cruel confession. It was just a one-night stand. Emma's heart pounded as she scrolled through the messages, disbelief freezing her fingers. The betrayal was raw, the sting undeniable. How could the man who promised forever dismiss her with such coldness? The city lights outside blurred with her tears, each word echoing louder than the last. Yet, this was only the beginning. Emma had no idea that soon, the truth would explode into a revelation far worse than infidelity, a secret carrying life itself. Emma sat motionless, the room echoing with silence that screamed louder than any words. Her mind raced through every memory, every promise Mark had made, now crumbling like fragile glass. She whispered to herself, "How could he?" Yet, beneath the shock, a seed of resolve sprouted. This betrayal wasn't the end but the beginning of a fight for truth, one that would test her strength beyond anything she imagined. As dawn crept in, illuminating the scars of the night, Emma knew her journey had just begun. The woman he called a one-night stand was pregnant, and this secret threatened to unravel everything she held dear. Mark awoke to a cold emptiness beside him. His mind replayed the reckless night he had dismissed so casually, a night that now threatened to consume him. He muttered under his breath, "It was just supposed to be nothing." But the silence in the room was deafening, heavier than any guilt. The weight of the secret he'd tried to bury pressed down, knowing the consequences would shatter the life he carefully built. Outside, the city bustled on, unaware of the storm brewing behind closed doors. Mark's reflection in the mirror revealed a man grappling with the chaos he'd unleashed, haunted by the choice that might cost him everything. Emma's best friend Lisa arrived unannounced, concern etched deep in her eyes. "Emma, you need to hear this," she said urgently, holding a folded letter with trembling hands. The truth was unraveling faster than Emma could process. The letter confirmed the pregnancy, the woman's plea for support, and Mark's denial. The betrayal had layers Emma hadn't imagined. As Lisa's words hit her like a tidal wave, Emma's resolve hardened. She wouldn't be silenced or broken. With Lisa by her side, she vowed to uncover every hidden truth, no matter how painful. The confrontation was inevitable. Emma dialed Mark's number, her voice steady but trembling. "We need to talk," she said. The silence on the other end was deafening before he finally answered, his voice guarded. The fragile facade crumbled as accusations flew, truths spilled, and lies unraveled. Mark claimed innocence, calling the woman a mistake, a fleeting error. But Emma saw through the denial, the fear in his eyes, the cracks in his story. That night, nothing would be the same. The line between love and betrayal blurred irreparably, and Emma faced a future shadowed by heartbreak and uncertain choices. Days passed, but Emma's mind was a whirlwind of doubt and determination. She replayed every moment with Mark, searching for signs she missed. Her best friend Lisa stayed close, offering unwavering support. "You deserve the truth no matter how hard," Lisa said gently. Emma's strength was tested daily, balancing heartbreak with hope. She wanted answers. Who was the woman? What did Mark truly feel? The pregnancy added an impossible weight, yet Emma refused to crumble. She began piecing together a plan to confront the tangled web of lies and half-truths. In her heart, she knew this was more than betrayal. It was a reckoning that would change her forever. Mark wrestled with guilt and denial in equal measure. He avoided friends, hiding from the consequences of his actions, yet the secret gnawed at him relentlessly. His nights were restless, haunted by the woman's silent plea and the growing life inside her. He told himself, it was a mistake, nothing more. But each call from Emma felt like a tightening noose. He feared losing everything he'd built, the career, the respect, the woman he claimed to love. Despite his defenses, cracks began to show. Mark's facade faltered as he faced the reality he tried to escape. The emotional anchor of his life was slipping away, and he had no idea how to stop the fall. Emma sought out the woman, Sarah, who had carried the secret in silence. Meeting in a quiet cafe, the air thick with tension and unsaid words, Emma listened as Sarah recounted her story. The fleeting encounter, the discovery of pregnancy, and Mark's cold rejection. Sarah's eyes brimmed with pain, but also resilience. "I never wanted to hurt anyone," she whispered. Emma's anger softened, replaced by a complex empathy. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about shattered lives intersecting in painful ways. Together, they began an uneasy alliance, each seeking truth and closure, bound by a secret that neither could ignore. Emma's confrontation with Mark escalated into a heated exchange. Her voice trembled but carried steel as she demanded answers. Mark's defenses cracked, regret spilled from his lips. "I didn't mean for this to happen," he confessed, eyes pleading. But apologies couldn't erase the pain or the questions still unanswered. Emma realized that the man she loved was deeply flawed, capable of cruelty she hadn't imagined. The emotional anchor shifted, her trust was broken, but her resolve grew stronger. She wouldn't let this story end in silence. The fight for clarity and justice had only begun, and Emma was ready to face whatever came next. Late one night, Emma sat alone, the weight of everything pressing down. She looked at the small box of pregnancy test results, the undeniable proof that had turned her world upside down. Tears streamed down her face, but beneath the sorrow, a spark of determination burned. This wasn't just about Mark or betrayal. It was about her future, her choices, and the life growing inside Sarah. Emma whispered to herself, "I will fight for what's right." The emotional anchor solidified. She was no longer a victim, but a woman ready to reclaim her story. The night stretched on, quiet but full of promise, marking the fragile beginning of her healing journey. The rumors began to spread like wildfire. Emma felt the cold sting of whispers behind her back at work, the judgmental glances from people she barely knew. Her private pain was now public fodder. Mark, desperate to control the narrative, spun lies and half-truths to protect himself. Emma's world became a battlefield. Friends took sides, her reputation tarnished. But amid the chaos, her resolve hardened. She refused to be silenced or shamed. The pregnancy was no longer just a secret. It was a symbol of betrayal and resilience. Emma prepared to fight back, knowing that every step forward meant facing harsh realities and risking even more heartbreak. Mark's world unraveled as his colleagues and friends confronted him. The facade of control crumbled under pressure. Late nights turned into arguments, phone calls into confrontations. He felt trapped between guilt and desperation. Yet every attempt to mend fences only deepened the wounds. Mark's denial clashed with Emma's demand for truth, creating a chasm too wide to bridge. The pregnancy loomed over their fractured relationship like a dark cloud, a constant reminder of choices that could no longer be undone. Mark was forced to face the consequences, both personal and professional, and the fragile balance of his life teetered on the edge. Sarah's pregnancy advanced quietly but visibly. She faced judgment and loneliness, often retreating into herself. Yet, when Emma reached out with unexpected kindness, a fragile bond formed. They shared whispered conversations about fear, hope, and the future. Emma saw Sarah not as an enemy, but as a woman caught in the same storm. Together, they navigated the impossible terrain of betrayal and forgiveness, each woman redefining what strength meant in the face of heartbreak. Their uneasy alliance became a sanctuary, in a world that offered little comfort, and a shared determination to find a way forward. Emma confronted Mark once more, this time with evidence she had gathered: texts, calls, and a letter from Sarah. Her voice was steady, but beneath it burned a fierce resolve. "You can't hide behind lies anymore," she declared. Mark's defenses shattered under the weight of proof, the truth spilling out in fits of anger and regret. The confrontation was raw and painful, a turning point where facades fell away and real emotions surfaced. The emotional stakes soared higher than ever, forcing both to reckon with the fallout of their choices and the uncertain path ahead. As the days dragged on, Emma found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions: anger, sorrow, but also a growing clarity. She realized the fight wasn't just against Mark, but against the betrayal that threatened to define her. She began reaching out to a counselor, seeking a way to heal. The pregnancy, the heartbreak, and the conflict had pushed her to a breaking point, but also opened the door to resilience. Emma's journey was no longer just about uncovering truth. It was about reclaiming her identity and forging a future where she was more than a victim of circumstances. Just when Emma thought she understood the full story, a new bombshell dropped. A letter arrived addressed to Mark, but it was meant for Emma, containing details that no one had anticipated. It revealed that the pregnancy was not just Sarah's secret, but a carefully hidden truth about Mark's past. Another woman, another child, a secret he had buried deep. Emma's world spun again. The betrayal was far deeper than a one-night stand. It was a lifetime of lies. Her anger mixed with disbelief as she stared at the letter, realizing that uncovering the truth was even more complicated than she had feared. Emma confronted Mark again, the letter burning in her hands. "How many lies have you been living?" she demanded. Mark's calm facade cracked completely, revealing a man overwhelmed by guilt and regret. He confessed to a secret family he had kept hidden. A second child from years ago he had never told Emma about. The revelation shattered the fragile trust they had left, twisting the knife deeper into their fractured lives. Emma's emotions raged, betrayal, confusion, and heartbreak, colliding with the need to understand why Mark had kept this from her all along. As Emma grappled with the news, Sarah's pregnancy progressed, and her own vulnerabilities deepened. Yet Sarah revealed something unexpected, a plan she had made to protect herself and the baby. She wanted Emma to be involved, to face Mark together, to ensure the child's future. The alliance between Emma and Sarah transformed from fragile to fierce. They would no longer be pawns in Mark's deception. Together they found a newfound strength, planning their next steps with clear resolve. The secret that once divided them had now become a catalyst for empowerment and solidarity. Mark's world continued to crumble as his past and present collided. Friends distanced themselves, his reputation tarnished beyond repair. In desperation he sought to make amends, reaching out to Emma and Sarah with apologies that felt too little, too late. Emma, strengthened by her new alliance and clarity, stood firm. "Words aren't enough," she said coldly. The emotional weight was unbearable, yet she refused to be broken again. The power dynamic had shifted. This was no longer Mark's story to control. Emma prepared for the long battle ahead, ready to fight for justice and her own peace. In a quiet moment alone, Emma reflected on everything she had learned, the betrayals, the secrets, the pain, and the strength she had found within herself. She realized that the story wasn't just about Mark's mistakes, but about her own journey of resilience. With Sarah's support, she felt ready to face the uncertain future, protect the innocent life involved, and reclaim her own happiness. The twists had shaken her world to its core, but Emma was no longer a victim of circumstances. She was a woman determined to write her own ending, no matter the cost. The day of the confrontation arrived. Emma, accompanied by Sarah, faced Mark in a sterile, tense meeting room. The air was thick with unresolved pain and raw emotion. Emma's voice was steady but fierce as she demanded accountability, her eyes locking with Mark's. Sarah stood quietly beside her, her growing belly a silent reminder of the stakes. Mark, visibly shaken, tried to defend himself, but the weight of his lies was crushing. The room felt smaller with every word exchanged, the atmosphere electric. This was the emotional apex where years of deception collided with the truth, and no one would leave unchanged. Mark's defenses crumbled further when Sarah revealed the letter she had written during a moment of despair, an unfiltered outpouring of pain, fear, and hope. Emma read the letter aloud, the words echoing through the room like a hammer striking fragile walls. Mark's face paled as he listened, guilt and shame washing over him. The room grew heavy with the truth, and for the first time, Mark admitted the full extent of his mistakes. Emma's heart ached, but her resolve did not waver. This confession was both a breaking point and a catalyst for something new. Whether forgiveness or final goodbye remained unknown. The tension erupted as Mark's anger briefly flared, accusations thrown in desperation. "You don't understand what I've sacrificed," he shouted. But Emma stood her ground. "Sacrifice doesn't justify betrayal," she said, her voice unwavering. The room crackled with emotion, pain, frustration, and a desperate need for closure. Sarah's steady presence calmed the storm, reminding everyone of the child at the heart of their conflict. In that charged moment, it was clear that healing would be difficult, but the confrontation had cracked open the possibility. The climax of their tangled story was painful yet necessary. After the confrontation, silence fell over the room like a heavy curtain. Emma and Sarah exchanged a glance full of unspoken understanding, a mixture of sorrow and solidarity. The future was uncertain, but in that silence, they found strength. Mark sat alone, grappling with the consequences of his actions, isolated by his own mistakes. Emma realized that this moment, painful as it was a turning point. The climax was not just about conflict, but the fragile beginnings of acceptance and new paths. It was the moment where everything shifted, leaving scars but also the faintest glimmer of hope. That night, Emma sat by the window, staring out at the city lights. The weight of the day's confrontation settled over her, but so did a new sense of clarity. She whispered to herself, "This isn't the end." The road ahead would be difficult, filled with choices she had yet to make, but she was no longer defined by betrayal. The pregnancy, the lies, and the heartbreak were chapters of her past. Now, Emma was ready to reclaim her story, one step at a time. The climax had passed, but the journey toward healing and hope was just beginning under the quiet watch of the night. Weeks passed, and Emma began to rebuild her life on her own terms. She found solace in small routines, morning walks, journaling, and reconnecting with old friends. Therapy helped her unpack the pain, replacing confusion with clarity. Though the scars of betrayal remained, Emma's spirit grew stronger. She no longer saw herself as a victim, but as a woman reclaiming control. The future was still uncertain, but with each new day came a little more hope. The past's shadows lingered, but Emma learned to face them with resilience, ready to embrace whatever life had in store. Sarah prepared for the arrival of her baby, supported by Emma and a growing circle of friends who had become family. Though the journey was daunting, Sarah found strength in their shared experiences and unwavering support. Emma's presence was a balm, their bond deepening beyond circumstance. They celebrated small victories together, doctor's appointments, nursery preparations, moments of laughter amid tears. The pregnancy no longer symbolized betrayal but hope, a new beginning born from hardship. Together, they faced the unknown, united by resilience and the promise of tomorrow. Mark retreated into solitude, grappling with the consequences of his choices. Friends distanced themselves, and his professional reputation suffered. Alone, he faced the reality he had tried to ignore, the broken relationships, lost trust, and the chance for redemption slipping through his fingers. Reflection turned to regret as Mark confronted his failings. Though some bridges were burned, he resolved to make amends where possible and to seek a path toward healing, even if it meant starting from the bottom. His journey was painful but necessary, a stark contrast to Emma's path of reclaiming strength. Emma stood at a crossroads, past wounds lingering but no longer defining her. She embraced her newfound independence, setting boundaries with Mark and focusing on healing. Conversations with Sarah became plans for co-parenting, grounded in respect and mutual care. Emma found joy in small moments, a sunrise, a friend's laughter, a quiet evening at home. The story of betrayal had evolved into one of resilience and growth. Emma was ready to move forward, carrying lessons learned but no longer chained to pain. Her journey toward peace and empowerment was well underway. As Sarah's due date neared, Emma felt a quiet excitement mingled with nerves. Together, they prepared to welcome new life into a complicated world. Emma's support was unwavering, a testament to strength born from adversity. The path ahead was uncertain, but illuminated by hope and the bonds forged through hardship. Emma whispered a promise to herself and to the life soon to arrive. No matter what happened, she would protect, nurture, and fight for this new beginning. The resolution was not a neat ending, but a powerful step toward healing and transformation. The day Sarah went into labor was a profound mixture of fear, hope, and raw emotion that no words could fully capture. Emma stood unwavering by Sarah's side in the bright, sterile hospital delivery room, holding her trembling hand through each painful contraction. The hours stretched on, punctuated by the steady beeping of machines and the distant hum of medical staff. When the newborn's first cries finally shattered the tense silence, a wave of relief and awe swept through them both. It was as if the tangled chaos of their pasts, the lies, the heartbreak, and the betrayals, had for one moment been silenced by the miracle of life. Emma felt a fierce protective love flood her chest, a feeling she had never known before. This child was not merely the result of pain and deceit, but a symbol of resilience, hope, and a future they would build together, no matter how complicated the road ahead. The days following the birth unfolded in a quiet blend of exhaustion and tenderness. Emma and Sarah, now bonded beyond circumstance, settled into the delicate rhythms of new motherhood and fragile friendship. The hospital room, once filled with sterile echoes, became a haven of whispered conversations, shared smiles, and tentative plans for the future. Each moment, from diaper changes to lullabies, wove threads of healing between them. Emma's heart softened as she watched Sarah cradle the baby, their tiny breaths mingling in the soft glow of afternoon sunlight, filtering through Venetian blinds. Outside the window, life continued indifferent to their private journey, but inside, hope blossomed quietly. Together, they embraced the daunting unknown with strength born from shared pain and newfound purpose. From a distance, Mark watched the life he never expected to be a part of unfold with a mix of sorrow and reflection. Standing outside the hospital under the fading hues of dusk, he felt the weight of everything that had led to this moment settle heavily on his shoulders. Redemption was no longer just a concept but a daunting, uncertain path, one he would have to earn with patience, humility, and unflinching honesty. The past couldn't be rewritten, and the bridges he had burned with lies and betrayal might never fully heal. Yet, for the first time, Mark understood the depth of his mistakes, not as excuses, but as the foundation for genuine change. His gaze lifted to the distant hospital windows glowing softly in the twilight, a silent vow forming within him to strive for a better future, however long and difficult the journey might be. Emma returned to the quiet sanctuary of her home, clutching the baby's first photos, small, delicate prints that captured moments of new life, love, and fragile beginnings. Though the shadows of betrayal still lingered in the corners of her heart, they no longer controlled her. She had survived the storm, endured heartbreak, and emerged stronger and wiser. The future stretched before her like an unwritten canvas, full of both challenges and the promise of joy yet to come. Sitting in the warm glow of her living room, Emma whispered a vow to herself: "I will live boldly, love fiercely, and never let anyone else define my worth again." The final scene of her past chapter was closing, but the true story, the one of resilience, courage, and self-reclamation, was only just beginning. In the stillness of the night, Emma stood by her window, gazing out over the twinkling city lights that stretched endlessly into the distance. The journey she had endured, marked by heartbreak, betrayal, and profound loss, had transformed her into someone new. She whispered softly into the darkness, "This is my story now." The past no longer held her captive but stood as a foundation, flawed, painful, yet real, upon which she would build her future. Her face, bathed in the soft glow of the urban nightscape, was calm and resolute. In that moment, Emma was a woman reborn, ready to face whatever came next with strength, grace, and unyielding hope. The story ended not with finality, but with a breath, a promise, and the shimmering light of possibility.